Preservation Board to order at 6:30 on Wednesday, February 26, 2020. Let's start with roll call.
Chair Price.
Here.
Vice Chair Field.
Here.
Board Member Fisher.
Here.
Board Member Gabriel.
Here.
Board Member Hill.
Here.
Board Member Spratlin.
Here.
Board Member Hood. We have a quorum.
Shall we do the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any amendments or changes to the agenda? All right, we'll call that approved then, right, Ashley? Okay, now let's approve the minutes of the December 16th, 2019 regular meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance to look the minutes over?
And Lisa had a change to the minutes. Has that change been made?
It was not a change to the minutes. It was a change to the resolution that you approved.
Oh, that's right. It was attached.
And it wasn't
with
a change. It was just taking out, there was verbiage in the resolution that a public hearing had been held and
That's
there wasn't.
correct. Okay, yes.
So it doesn't affect the minutes.
Okay.
Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes for December 16th? Andy?
I move to approve the minutes for the December 16th, 2019 regular meeting of the Littleton Historical Preservation Board.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Am I on? Display. There we go.
The vote is 6 in favor. The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. The next item is public comment. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Thank you, Colleen. And our speaker is Pam Chadbourne. We know where you live.
Thank you. Although I'm pretty sure for the record, I'll say I live a block and a half from here in District 1.
Thank you, Pam.
And I'm going to ask for the projection thing to be warmed up or started. Or...
Ben, can we get projection?
Awesome. And then can I zoom in? I think it's the projector. All I did was touch the zoom, none of the light.
Can we get some technical assistance down front, please?
Or if you know a button.
There are 2 training opportunities coming up. I'm going to bring up, and they're very affordable, like $50. Oh, yeah. So it's for that. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Switch this. Oh, okay.
Oh,
There it is.
can you make it? So if I'm afraid now to touch the Zoom.
Turn them all off. Oh, it's still on. Oh, gotcha.
Awesome. I'm trying to point at this. Yeah. Down here, just so people can read that. Is that as good as it'll do?
You want to go down?
I want to be able to read this. Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay. Thanks very much.
Oh, I see.
Yes. So my name is Pam Chadbourne. I live a block and a half from here in District 1. A couple of things. First off, you just approved the minutes, and the minutes say that my public comment last meeting was mid-century modern study. It doesn't say what I said about that. It doesn't say whether I liked it or didn't like it. It didn't say what I asked you to do about it. And I'm going to ask you folks in the future to look at the public comment and assure that public comments are recorded with what the speaker asks you to do, or what they thought about a subject, not just the subject. We fought this battle over and over as citizens You folks are all citizens. You were at one time, you will be in the future. Citizen comment should be protected, and I talked about this at Littleton Planning Commission too. No one should read Littleton meeting minutes and find a citizen comment that is not addressed. I mean, I'm sorry, but people who come down, I'm not sorry, people who come down here who spend their time, whether it's me or anyone else, it doesn't matter, should be given respect. And that respect is shown in recording what the speaker wanted from you, because they don't do this casually. So please assure in the future that public comment includes what the speaker thought and asked for, not just the subject. Now, the rest of what I want to talk about is I'm going to ask you to protect our historic assets. We've already moved into a disastrous code process and design standard process. I was there Monday. We had no business embarking on that discussion because we don't know how to protect our historic district. And that's the character of the district in terms of setbacks and open space and what we need around the parcels and then along the corridors that are historic districts or district overlays. We haven't even addressed, we as a city, Geneva Village and the other mid-century modern in the downtown area as an overlay district. Yet we have a disastrous future land use map that says we're all urban down here. And I feel that in 30, 40 years, there'll be people sitting somewhere for a historic preservation board saying, you know, these buildings are irrelevant now, they're kind of separated, we can't see them anymore. Let's get rid of this district. There's no history left. And this is up to you now. It's on your shoulders. It's now or never. If you don't protect the district and the overlay and the mid-century modern as well as the 1890s character of downtown, it's going to be gone because the setbacks and the open space will be so small that the historic character of the buildings will be irrelevant. Please, the original April concept of this included a conservation area, and we can bring that back. There's nothing sacred about the map that was passed. It needs revision. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Pam. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Then we shall move to general business. And our general business tonight is HPB Resolution 01-2020, amending the Main Street Historic District Grant Program and enacting specific changes. Andrea?
Yes, thank you. I'm Andrea Mimnall with the planning staff. And this is an item that was discussed by the board at your last meeting in January, the Main Street Historic District Grant Program. And each year the board typically makes some tweaks and changes to address concerns that have been seen over the past year or years. And so what staff heard from that study session has been put into the 2020 program. A copy of that program is attached in your packet, and I'd like to just quickly go over what those changes are that you'll see in there. The first is a set of 3 clarifications. The first is clarify what work comes under facade work definition. Specifically, screening of mechanical equipment comes under that category. Number 2, it's been clarified that roofing work is an eligible cost. And the third one is that the board wanted to clarify what types of work come under the category of maintenance. For example, if a building simply needs paint, that would not be covered. If there needs to be a lot of restoration work on that building and paint is a component of that to put it back together, that would be considered maintenance. The other category of changes come with the maximum grant allocations. And so in previous years, the board awarded up to 80% for projects, and now we've gone to a tiered system. The 80% reimbursement requirement can remain for a one-time grant for people who've opted their buildings into the district within the past 24 months. The percentage for roof work and maintenance work is now set at 25% maximum, and then all other work would be at 50% maximum reimbursement. And so that was it for the changes. And then I would like to point out that staff did catch an error in the brochure that went out in your packet. It was inadvertently put in that grant projects were due on the same day that they were actually approved by the board. So the grant projects do have 1 year to be completed, and so the date was changed from 2020 to 2021. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Questions, board? I think it fairly summarizes what we discussed at the study session. Thank you, Andrea. So we have $50,000 available, and this will allow more applicants, depending on the size of their project, to apply and possibly be successful.
That's correct.
The 50%. Okay, good. And a good incentive for those who have joined the district in the last couple of years. Okay. Well, anybody like to make a motion to approve this?
Do we need public comment? No.
It's a general business item.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I think the motion is
I'll make a motion.
here somewhere.
Hang on
Right
a
at the
second,
bottom of page one.
actually.
Right there,
I can't find it.
right below the guidelines.
Gotcha. Glasses don't do me any good. I move to approve HPB Resolution 01-2020, amending the Main Street Historic District Grant Fund related to eligible cost and grant allocation guidelines and enacting specific changes to the grant fund.
Second? Andy? Any discussion? Ready to vote?
Just one
Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
I just want to thank staff for the work that they did to research other cities' programs and to capture it all here. That helped, I don't know, sort of, I feel more grounded in like what other municipalities are doing, and I'm really proud of Littleton for the work that it does on this grant program.
Good. Other comments? No? Okay, ready to vote? Ready? Here we go.
The vote is 6 in favor. The motion to approve the resolution carries unanimously, and that is with the amended Exhibit A.
Thank you. Okay. No public hearing tonight, so I guess we'll move to comments and reports. Mike and Andrea? Who'd like to go first?
I do have a few comments, and the first one is that through Andy Hill, we have made contact with a graduate student at UC Denver who is getting a master's in historic preservation. She already has a master's in architecture, and she has a project that she needs to do in order to complete her degree this semester. And we presented her with 3 potential projects, and she has come back to us with her preferred project of updating the downtown survey. And so we will be meeting with her very soon, and I've asked Lisa Hood if she'd like to join us in helping craft the actual project and what it will include. It'll be important for us to make sure that it's enough work for the 3 credits that she needs, but not too much that she's not able to complete the work. And I believe that she'll be working with a professor on this as well to get input on that. And so the first thing that we're going to do is identify those buildings in the downtown survey area that have reached 40 years of age since 1997, when the previous survey was completed. So we'll have a map of that in just a few days here to go over with our student. Her name is Mickey Blair, and I think that you will probably meet her sometime within the next few months. So that's that. And then a couple of training opportunities from Colorado Preservation, Inc. have come up, and I wanted to bring them up to you. They're very affordable, and the first one is applying the Secretary of Interior's standards for rehabilitation. That's April 23rd, and it is in the afternoon up in Fort Collins. And I can send an email out on this too. The second one is using, or a workshop rather, on historic survey smart tools, and that is using electronic or pads out in the field to be able to do survey work very easily. And I think Kim had some information on this, or got some information from the Saving Places Conference. Then that one will be August 3rd. It's also in the afternoon, and it will be at the Tabor Opera House in Leadville. Long trip, but you may know that the Opera House was recently rehabilitated and restored with an amazing grant that they received, so it'll really be something to see. And that's it for me.
Andrea, did you have any feedback or any comments about Saving Places? Any of the things that you learned there?
Yes, I certainly did. I thought it was one of the best conferences. I mean, they're always good. It was one of the best conferences. A lot of different topics were addressed. It was very interesting. I think all in all that there's just so much to learn about historic preservation, and that anyone who has an opportunity to go in the future, I would recommend that you make a commitment to it and go.
Would it be appropriate to talk about the Canary Barn tour? On
Sure.
Monday?
Sure. So, what day was it? Wednesday? Oh, no, Monday already. On Monday, we had 3 staff members, Jennifer Henninger, Mike, and me, go out to the site of the Canary Farm Barn, and that is on the Enser property. That's the large property that is under consideration for development down on Santa Fe. And the property owner was there and her son, and there were 3 people from Toll Brothers who are looking under contract and looking to develop the property. And originally we thought that a larger group could go, but the property owner was concerned that perhaps there would be something that would bring people to want to have the barn designated in the location that it is, or something that might make their Toll Brothers, who's under contract, no longer want to purchase the property. The property owner explained this is the 6th contract that she's had for the property, and was really wanting to make sure that this goes through. Now, on the other hand, Toll Brothers is looking at preserving the barn, although not in the location that it is currently. And so I thought we had a really very positive conversation about that.
Yeah.
My impressions, the Canary Bar is a very interesting structure. I've always heard that being on the most endangered places list, that it was about to fall down. But we toured the inside of it. The whole lower level is made out of concrete, so that seems very stable.
Yeah.
The roof is probably in the worst repair, but the inside structure seemed to be, what do I know, but it seemed to be fairly sound from a site inspection. So that was encouraging to me.
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, it was a very windy day, and it wasn't, scary to be in it and feel like, things are going to be blowing in our direction at all. So it did really seem that it was a project worthy of preservation. It would be a terrific project for the city.
Good. Questions for Andrea?
I have a question. On the barn, one of the things that they've talked about is moving the barn. And this is probably not a fair question to ask, but just to your layperson's eyes, especially when you talk about concrete first floor, does it seem possible to move that barn?
Well, certainly not the concrete. The boards, perhaps they could be moved as is, on a truck, or perhaps they would need to be taken down and reassembled, something of that order. We have talked to them about getting a building assessment, and that would help make that determination about how that could occur. And I'll also add something else, that under the local ordinance, Littleton's ordinance, historic landmarks can be moved under certain circumstances. So that is allowable. Now, with the National Register of Historic Places, when a building structure is on the National Register, it cannot be moved. If it is moved, then it would lose its status as on the register. So we do have some flexibility at the local level.
Other questions? Comments? Mike? For Mike, too?
Yeah.
Okay, so next steps on that project, Andrea, as far as city's involvement, just going to continue to work on planning?
Sure. So we have had several pre-application meetings on the development on Ms. Cogdell's property, and I believe Toll Brothers is moving forward in their negotiations to purchase the property. The next step would be a neighborhood meeting before a formal application comes in. There's probably several parts to the application. One would be a transfer of density rights that they would request as a potentially an administrative amendment to the planned development plan. Then there's also several possible site development plans and several possible plats. And those, we've been talking with the applicant about how to submit those as a complete application to the planning division. So that would be probably the next series of steps that would be involved. As far as the Canary Barn goes, that we would expect to be part of the application for the site development plan as to exactly what they're going to do with the Canary Barn. And there's a potential for either a historic designation for that building or some element like that you would see.
Okay. Is the process completely administrative, Mike, or would there be a public hearing involved at some point?
So it could start off administratively, and then depending upon the outcome of that, it could be, the site development plans could be appealed to the Planning Commission. Anything that staff denied, for example, if staff did not approve the transfer of density through a administrative plan development plan amendment, that would go to that could be appealed to the Planning Commission. So there is the potential for public hearings for all of it.
Okay. Kim?
And you mentioned a neighborhood meeting. Can you roughly describe what area would be notified of that neighborhood meeting?
Yes. So according to the new regulations for major site development plans, the applicant would need to notify every property owner within 700 feet of the property of the application itself. And then, as we reviewed that application, let's say staff was ready to make a decision on it, and the decision were approval of a site development plan. We would re-notify every property owner within 700 feet of the property of the approval of that site development plan. Then there would be a 20-day period where any property owner within that notification boundary could appeal staff's administrative approval of that request.
And that's basically, it's under a quarter mile, isn't it, of the property? 700 feet?
Yeah, 700 feet is under a quarter mile.
Trying to think of how, I mean, that's Woolhurst, that development. And then across Santa Fe, on the east side of Santa Fe, is that less than a quarter mile away?
So we haven't run the calculations on that yet, but we have done some studies for the Evergreen property, which is the northern side, and some of that does touch the eastern side of South Santa Fe Drive. South Santa Fe Drive.
Interesting.
But not much. That's a very wide right-of-way.
Laura?
Can you explain what transfer of density rights means?
Certainly, the concept in the plan development plan is that you could transfer density around the site. To staff, that means that, for example, if you wanted to create more open space in a particular area, instead of evenly distributing the dwelling units across a particular site, you wanted to create more open space, you could take those dwelling units and create more density in other areas to create more open space, for example.
Okay.
That's kind of
Okay.
what staff anticipates as being a transfer of density. We're working with the applicant on their view of what transfer of density means on
Okay.
that site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. Board members, any updates from you folks? Andy? Start. Amy? Kim?
I have a question just about the barn.
Okay.
We are working on a nomination for CPI's most endangered spaces list. And Laura has graciously agreed to throw in on that project as well. And I really appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
And I was wondering, we're hoping to get HLI, the folks at Historic Littleton, Inc. are very interested in preserving and protecting the barn as well. And there was talk of doing a kind of a joint nomination with HLI. And there was a meeting, I guess, a week ago, last Wednesday, when it was just really snowy and awful. And I was going to go to that, and I couldn't make it. I was stuck in traffic, and I think you were stuck in traffic.
was as
And I
well.
don't even know if the meeting actually happened, because everybody was probably stuck in traffic. But I have not connected with Gail to find out if they voted on that, and HLI wants to participate in the nomination. Have you heard anything?
I haven't. I put in an email to her this afternoon, but I haven't heard anything back, so I
Okay.
will follow up with Gail.
Yeah, it's just an
on that one.
outstanding, we don't know exactly where we are with that, just because we might have gotten weathered out on that day, but that's okay.
And what's the deadline for the application for most endangered?
I don't even want to discuss it publicly because it's way far out.
It's far out,
And I've
okay.
told everybody that, we need to move on this quickly.
have it
So,
ready.
yeah,
Okay.
we have, there are lots of reasons as far as people traveling and work commitments and things like that to get this done this spring.
Good.
And with the winter we're having, who knows when spring will come?
Well, the groundhogs didn't see a shadow or did see a shadow? Whatever.
Saw a shadow.
He saw a shadow, but winter stayed. you
He's
know,
an
so-
accurate
He was
prognosticator.
accurate prognosticator.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
he is in
Okay.
Pennsylvania, we should remember.
All right.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Kim. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay. David? Laura? Okay. I have a couple things. I too attended Saving Places 2020, and my focus was thinking about the economic benefits of historic preservation and how we can talk to those who want to preserve a building but need some sort of economic incentive. So the things I focused on were seminars. One was called CPACE, and it stands for Colorado Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy. And this is a program that is funded by private funders, banks, credit unions, things like that. And it actually becomes a tax upon your property over the period of time for which you would be putting these improvements in place. And typically it's for energy efficiency improvements and water saving improvements. So it's financed through a special purpose assessment through property taxes, 100% financing, and soft costs, closing costs can be included. So you have to get the mortgagee's approval to do this because it becomes an additional burden upon the property. But it looks like, depending on how the process works, it could be a very, very good program for those who have a historic building and want to make some energy efficient improvements, including rehab of existing windows. So for our purposes, when we have those kinds of applications in Littleton, Andrea, where they're looking for a grant program, this could be a very good program for them as well.
Thank you.
So I've got some additional information on that. It is, minimum investment is $50,000, so go ahead, Andy.
Do you know if Arapahoe County has, the county has to approve it or something?
Let's see, do I have that in here? Yes, counties must opt in. I don't know whether Arapahoe County has opted in. That's a great question. I need to check on that.
I'll find out.
Okay. The other one was comprehensive property protection. This was a joint seminar between the folks who run the land conservation easement program and the historic preservation easement program as well. So that's for exterior of the building only, but it can protect designated resources, national, state, and local, public financial support, tax benefits, and Section 106 process solutions. So there are funds to provide for the easement process. Appraisal is not generally required and is valued generally via the property assessment. So those were the two that had some financial components to them, and both looked like they might be, pretty meaningful to some of our folks. And the luncheon, since we're talking about the Canary Farm Barn as a possible endangered place, there was a luncheon as part of all of this, and there were some buildings that were saved because of the Most Endangered Places program, which was, one of them was the Antonito Depot, which was an old railroad depot that was in terrible repair and has been restored, and the El Corazon de Trinidad community building in Fox Theater in Trinidad, where Dana Crawford has made a significant investment of funds, and the town in Trinidad is really, really coming back, especially from a historical preservation perspective. And then there are 4 endangered places. One was the Antelope Spring Church. It's north of Brush, and somebody had set fire to it, but fortunately out in the middle of nowhere, all by itself. Somebody had set fire to it. Somebody saw the smoke, called in the volunteer fire department, got the fire put out, and they're in the process of restoring the church. Also, the Isis Theater in Victor, East Portal Camp Cabins, ghost town on the east portal of Moffett Tunnel, which were built to house the workers who were building the Moffett Tunnel. and they're still in place, and there are several different jurisdictions that have dominion over these, including the Forest Service, Gilpin County, and did I say the Forest Service? Yeah. But anyway, very cool. And then the last one is the Southern Ute Boarding School campus in Ignacio, Colorado. So, you know, when I look at the Canary Farm Barn, that would be a good addition to next year's group. So excellent conference, though. You're right, Andrea. And the feedback I've seen on the CPI website says that this was the best conference that they've had in a long time. So excellent thing. We had a joint meeting with Planning Commission on Monday night, which I thought was very, very productive. And everybody who came, I know you couldn't make it, Amy, but everybody who was there, thank you. And it was, you know, we focused in on the downtown moratorium work plan and where we need to go with respect to 34 different items that are, David, you found this on the city's website, right?
Correct, it was a link within the Planning Commission's agenda.
Okay, it's called the Downtown Moratorium Work Plan, and we've asked that a couple of the items that were slated for summer be accelerated into the phase 1 during the moratorium. So we're hopeful that staff can get their arms around that. I know it's a big job, but it's obviously very important. Margie Clute sent me an email and said that they're doing tours again this spring and summer. And there are 5 dates, and if anybody would like to shadow on any of these dates and maybe do a tour, it's a lot of fun. I've done several of them myself, and it's May 1st, June 5th, July 3rd, sometime during Western Welcome Week, which is August 13th, and then September 4th. So it's a fun time, and it's a great way to interact with people who are interested in historic preservation. Oh, and then Lisa Hood and I are working on a project to see if we can get some grant funds to do some of our mapping, our surveying, and GIS possibly. So here's what she says. She's been working on it primarily, and she has some questions for the board. We are putting together an application for an education grant through the State Historical Fund competitive grant process. The application is due April 1st, but we hope to get a draft to the SHF by March 1st so that they can complete an initial review and let us know what needs to be changed to make a stronger application. We're in the process of getting a bid for the work from a consultant. It will fall under the mini grant category of under $35,000. We don't necessarily have to pick this consultant to do the work, but need to have an idea of how much the project will cost to submit our application. The Littleton Legacy Project would include hiring a consultant to sort through all existing surveys and pull out all properties that were identified as potentially eligible for landmarking. This would make up the first phase of the Littleton Legacy properties. A question for the HPB is whether we want to focus on only properties that were identified as potentially eligible for a national or state register, or all properties identified as eligible for local landmark status. We estimate that there are about 50 properties that have been identified as national, state eligible, and about 130 eligible for local landmarking. It is unlikely that doing all 130 will allow us to stay within the mini grant funding amount request. The consultants would then develop an ArcGIS story map that would highlight the history of all these properties. The story map would be visually appealing, public-friendly interface that would allow members of the public to learn more about significant but undesignated Littleton properties that have contributed to Littleton's legacy. One possibility is to try to find historic photos of as many of the properties as possible and include these in the public interface for the story map. Would any board members be interested in volunteering to find historic photos? Many of the surveys reference historic photos available at the library. The City of Littleton will be required to submit a cash match of 25% of the project cost up to $8,750. We will need various letters of support for the application. The SHF suggested city council members, property owners of a property that will be featured, nonprofits such as HLI, businesses, a wide range. We will need the help of the city's grant specialists to complete the process. So that's Lisa's email. So the two questions she asked are, whether we want to focus on only properties that were identified as potentially eligible for national or state register, or all properties identified as eligible for local landmark status. Any thoughts?
Well, if she was saying that if by covering all of them, we won't be able to apply in the less than 35,000 tier, then I'd rather get some of it done than none of it done,
Okay,
unless there's another way to look at it.
maybe limit it to the ones that are eligible under national or state.
Yeah, I mean, we can at least consider that phase one. and then-
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, all right. Second question, would any board members be interested in volunteering to find historic photos? Many of the surveys reference historic photos available at the library.
I would like to do that, but I do have to tell you that I worked with HLI last year for historic awards, that we gave the award ceremony. And when we went to the Littleton Historic Museum, they really don't have very many photos of anything. So it's it says, it sounds good to look for historic photos, but I doubt we're going to be able to find very many. But I love to look and help.
Right.
But I think it's going to be, there won't be very many.
Okay, we'll get some addresses and
Okay.
see how that'll work. All right, great, thank you, Laura. All right. Let's see. That's all I have, go ahead.
Just throw in one thing on the historic surveys. One of the things that Andrea mentioned was we attended a session at Saving Places on some of the electronic survey tools that are being used in Denver, and they're pretty incredible. It was a great program. It's very accessible in terms of cost and also in terms of training up volunteers. It's very user-friendly. It's easy. And it was paid for with state historic funds grant, and Denver is offering the information and training basically to any CLGs in the state of Colorado that would like to take advantage of it. And the entry costs were just so low as far as the little tablets that are needed. And apparently it's very easy to train up volunteers to do these, and they're quick, they're fun, and it seems to be working very well in Denver. And I spoke with someone who's actually doing the surveys up in Denver, and she said that's all true. It's just a breeze. It's a great program. So maybe we should hook Lisa up with that information and let her look at it and see what she thinks.
That sounds great.
All right, great, Kim, thank you. Anything else, folks? Seeing none, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.